It's always going to draw huge attention when one team has a 2 next to its name and the other team a 5 next to its name. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. We break down the game we all love each and every day with you. Best discussion, debate, and analysis because of your contribution. Please like the video, share the videos out on social media. Not everyone knows that we're here talking college football with you every day, and subscribe right here. Ohio State, Notre Dame at the Shoe, September 3rd. And again, number 2 versus number 5 is going to be huge. But we're talking about possibly, Alabama fans, USC fans, and others, calm down, possibly the 2 biggest brands in the history of college football. 2 of the pillars of the sport. So it brings more fame, brand name recognition to it than just about any matchup you can imagine. All right, let's get to the matchup. But first, the history. How about that? It's a 4-2 series. Notre Dame won way back when Notre Dame was winning all those big games in leather helmets, 1935-36. Ohio State won a couple games I remember in 95 and 96. They played in 2 Fiesta Bowls with the Buckeyes winning again, 4 straight for the Buckeyes. All right, we've got the angle of Marcus Freeman. Really good career for the Buckeyes. Played in 2 national championship games in 06 and 07. All right, he is now the head coach at Notre Dame and a rising star in the sport, we believe. Notre Dame fans and media are gushing about this guy. I thought it was a good hire. I think he's a rising star, just a guy that seems to be doing everything right in regards to football knowledge, relationship, and ability to engage with athletes, and just an aura, personality, swag, charisma about him. Yes, but a first-year head coach. Will he succeed? We know Brian Kelly was rock solid. Brian Kelly elevated the program, but Brian Kelly's numbers against top teams, not good. 4-11 against the top 10, 1-6 against top 5 teams, only 23-23 against the top 25, and Notre Dame should beat merely top 25 teams. So now we've got number 2 and number 5 at the Shoe. All right, we also have Al Golden running a defense for Notre Dame that is going to be up against a huge challenge, possibly the most prolific offense in college football. Certainly one of the best last year and projected to be the best in 2022. Al Golden has most recently been in the NFL, and he was last a defensive coordinator at Virginia in 2005. So that could be advantage Ohio State, or that could be advantage Notre Dame, because what did the Buckeyes go on in planning for an Al Golden defense? Look at Cincinnati Bengals tapes. But while we continue to gush about the Ohio State offense, let's understand that there are some minor concerns. This offense is going to score points, going to rack up yardage, number 1 in the nation in both categories last year. But will they do it at the right times against the better teams? We know that the Oregon effort was prolific in terms of total yardage, but only 28 points on the board. Only 28 points on the board with a defense that was mediocre at best. Against Michigan, 27 points on the board, of course, on the sideline most of the game because of a mediocre defense that was extending drives for Michigan. Also in the wins against Penn State and Nebraska, not prolific offensive performances. Against good teams and good defensive clubs, Ohio State was prolific. Against Purdue, they ripped them up to shreds. And Michigan State, Sparty with issues in the pass defense, but overall strong defense. Ohio State's got to run the football when it matters, and this is going to be a huge challenge. The Ohio State offensive line versus the Notre Dame defensive line. The Buckeyes losing 2 NFL starters, of course, from this 21 offensive line. Can Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams find gaps, find holes, push ahead? I am so intrigued to see Ohio State's offensive line, headed up by first-year coach Justin Fry, against that Notre Dame front. Isaiah Foskey, one of the best in the business, coming off the edge, of course, 11 sacks. Jason Adamalola, also a top-notch player for that Notre Dame defensive front. Ohio State was 3rd in the nation in yards per carry last year. Travion Henderson breaking big runs, 1,200 yards rushing. He should be even better this year, but run it when it counts. Check out first possession against Michigan, second half at the Big House. Ohio State needs to move people out of the way when it counts. Are they elite on offense? Then they need to be able to do that. The wide receiver core, possibly in question to a certain extent for Ohio State standards. Of course, these guys are going to produce points and yards, but Garrett Wilson, one of the best in the business. Chris Olave, also 2 of the top 15 picks in the NFL draft, gone. Well, it looks like Marvin Harrison, of course, based on the lineage, and look at the body type and look at the way he runs routes and catches the football. Check out the Rose Bowl, 3 touchdown receptions. He is equal to Garrett Wilson, potentially. Chris Olave, who replaces him? Julian Fleming. Also, of course, Emeka Egbuka, probably making bigger plays and showing himself ready for that role. Jackson Smith-Njigba, C.J. Stroud, they're givens. They are givens. We're not going to talk about them. They're 2 of the elite players in the country. The only thing that's going to stop them is if JSN is bracketed by Notre Dame. If they fear him enough to give him extra attention, then the other wide receivers need to step up and maybe even utilize a tight end for once. For C.J. Stroud, he's going to make the throws. That's all there is to it. What is going to stop that? Extremely tight coverage, but most likely Foskey coming off the edge. Disrupting. That interrupts any quarterback. Any quarterback, every quarterback is affected by pressure. So Stroud is a given. JSN are givens unless they're taken away. So the 2 huge matchups for me on this side of the ball, Ohio State's offensive line against Notre Dame's defensive front, and then wide receivers against secondary. Notre Dame loses, of course, Kyle Hamilton, one of the very best in the business, but they went without him much of 2021. Brandon Joseph, 9 interceptions, 136 tackles in 3 years at Northwestern. An all-Big Ten performer, All-American in 2020. He fills in. He's not Kyle Hamilton, but he's close. As good a replacement as you could expect. Cam Hart. Oh my goodness, the first time I saw Cam Hart play, I said he's a star. And he's been one. Cam Hart's an exceptional player. Notre Dame needs him to be like glue in this game. Clarence Lewis had 7 pass breakups. Can they keep up with Ohio State's wide receivers? When Notre Dame's got the ball, we're going to focus on Tyler Buckner. As well we should. He's played meaningful snaps in meaningful games against good opponents. So this is not going to be new to him in regards to environment. But in regards to responsibility, from snap 1 all the way to the conclusion of the game, it's all on Tyler Buckner. But Notre Dame wants to make a game plan and wants to be successful at the point of attack, so it's not all on Tyler Buckner, and he can do what he does well. Distribute the football and run it 10 or 12 times, something in that range at least, against this Ohio State defense headed up by Jim Knowles. That is the mystery unit of college football this year in regards to trying to project a national champion. Jim Knowles came to Oklahoma State, and let's get the facts straight. The defense regressed his first couple years. They actually took a step back before they took a step forward, and he worked his magic later in his tenure in Stillwater as they produced a top 5 defense in 2021, but it took a while. But he's got his old buddy Tanner McAllister from Oklahoma State as a safety who started 41 games at Oklahoma State. He's not a great player, but he's an all Big 12 second teamer. Plus, he has been integral in teaching the rest of these guys the defense, and that is huge. What also is huge in the secondary is that Ohio State, arguably DBU during this century, has not produced those kind of defensive backs in recent years. No impact guys post-2019. The last 2 seasons, Ohio State secondary has been a mess of guys just chasing wide receivers down the field. Denzel Burke's been an exception at the cornerback position. He's not been amazing or great, but based on his teammates' play the last 2 years, he's been a standout. No question about that. Does he take a step forward and become an all-conference player? Welcome back, Josh Proctor. You were missed last year. Your replacement, Bryson Shaw, was in the wrong spot most of the time, wasn't physical enough, was not the guy that could be both the guy to diagnose the offense and then have the quick twitch to get there and get there with force. Josh Proctor's that guy, and he will be needed by this Ohio State defense. The linebacking core for the Buckeyes should be better than it's been in quite some time. Let's go back to like 2016. Tommy Eichenberg is a player. He's made himself a tremendous all-conference kind of player, potentially 64 tackles last season. Cody Simon, excellent player. Steel Chambers made the conversion from running back to linebacker. Does he take a full leap up since he made a remarkable transition with just one off season? Now with a full second off season, Steel Chambers could be an impact linebacker. Ronnie Hickman, call him a safety, call him a linebacker. He's got to be a run stopper and enforcer. He had 100 tackles and 2 picks last year. Ronnie Hickman, a key to this Ohio State defensive improvement. Sonny Styles, CJ Hicks. I'm looking at you, Hicks, in particular because of early enrollment. Styles just made it to campus. 2 5-star linebackers. One of these guys needs to be an impact player this year for a Buckeyes defense. Again, the linebacking core looks to be much improved, I believe. Nothing close to what we saw against Oregon in particular, and then getting pushed up and down the field by Michigan. Out of position against Oregon, that was the issue against the Ducks. Pushed all over the field by Michigan. That starts up front, though. Ohio State's defensive line effort last year was disappointing against the better teams. Tyleik Williams, Teron Vincent need to be better. How about Mike Hall, run stopper? Plug up the middle, get a push in the quarterback's face. But those edge guys need to be stars. Zach Harrison will move on to the NFL after this season. There is no doubt. He's just too talented. But his Ohio State career has been a disappointment. He had a strip sack for a fumble recovery touchdown in last year's opener. Hey, duplicate that. Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau. They didn't have enough time to get themselves geared up and ready to be real impact guys, but they got meaningful snaps. They played reasonably well. They weren't disappointments or busts in any such way. They were only freshmen, true freshmen. Now they're sophomores. The Bosa brothers, Chase Young, those guys took off at this point. The Bosa brothers did at this point. Chase Young a little bit later. But man, Sawyer, JTT, wow. If they live up to their potential, this Ohio State defensive front could be a complete wrecking crew and could be the best in the country. I still rank them below, at this point, Alabama and Clemson in particular. How about this Notre Dame offense? The wide receiver play has been decent in recent years. They've had the big body receivers that have played really well and moved on to the NFL. But the really speed guys to take the top off the defense, they've recruited them in recent years, but none of them have panned out to be that guy. Avery Davis is out, unfortunately, with a knee injury, and he's out for the season. He was supposed to be that guy. Braden Lindsey's coming off a decent year, 32 catches. You've got Styles with 24 catches. Tobias Merriweather may need to be a factor early and often. Prized recruit. The last time we saw the Buckeyes in a critical game against a stout running attack, Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, they got pushed all over the field. It was embarrassing. Hassan Haskins scored 5 touchdowns. Notre Dame is capable of doing the same. Ohio State's defensive front against Notre Dame's offensive line. The Irish lose a little bit up front, but bring back most people. This is a man versus manhood, challenger manhood kind of game. And Ohio State's going to have to be up to the task because Notre Dame's not going to back down. They will be physical. Ohio State will stay in the game because of weapons, but they could dominate the game if they prove to be as physical as Notre Dame. And along the offensive line, of course, Notre Dame's been one of the best the last 5 to 10 years. Center Jared Patterson, he's one of the best in the land. And, of course, right tackle Blake Fisher is there. Notre Dame's got some speed backs. They lose Kyron Williams. He was the force in the backfield. A couple speedy guys, and Chris Tyree, and, of course, Logan Diggs. How will they do? That is left up to the Notre Dame offensive line, but they don't have that real strong push at running back in regards to a Kyron Williams. Until proven otherwise, I can see a game that plays out much like Oregon, and especially more like Michigan did last year, where Notre Dame pushes Ohio State up and down the field, maintains possession of the ball, keeps CJ and the boys on the sideline, holds them to about 30 points, and wins the ball game. Or I can see Ohio State just with weapons and speed. They've got a speed advantage, not a ridiculous speed advantage, but they've got a speed advantage, athletic advantage. They've got a better recruited roster. Top 3 in the country, Notre Dame more in 8 to 10 range. That Ohio State, if they prove to be stout up front on both sides of the ball, they don't have to dominate up front. They just need to give CJ time to throw, They got to open up some lanes, some holes, some push up front on the offensive line, and then be able to provide the push and keep the line of scrimmage where it's at on the defensive side of the ball. You'll get my prediction on Patreon, as you always do. Please sign up there. We've got Discord all the time, 24/7, 365 college football chat. Sign up on Discord. You go to patreon.com, search MarkRogersTV for my picks from media members, the contributors that you see on here all the time, plus, of course, that Discord chat right here at the Voice of College Football, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Let me know what you think down below.